Hello friends, myself Prateek, and in this session we are going to discuss inbuilt conversion functions in Python. These conversion functions are used to convert one data type to another. Let us start this session. This is our Spider interface, and you know that in previous session we discussed about variables and its type. So here I have a variable with name first number and I have assigned a float value to this. And you know that if I have assigned a float value to a variable, then its type will be float. So we can check this by using of type function. If I execute these two statements, I will get the type of my first number, and you can see that the type is float. Now let's suppose you want to convert this into integer. So in order to convert a float variable to integer or a float value to integer, you can use a function called as int. So the function name is same as the data type name. So if you want to convert float to int, you can use int function. So int function will convert this float value into its equivalent integer value. So the float value is 3.344. So it will return 3 in this case. So let's print this value. So I'm using print function, and in print I have used this int first number. So the value of first number will be converted to int in this case. Let's execute this statement, and you can see that the output is 3. Let's update first number for its integer value. Here the first number will be converted to integer. So this will return a value 3, and that value will be stored in first number. So if you print the value of first number after execution of this statement, so let's remove this statement. So let us consider these statements now. So let's check the output of these three statements. So I'm executing this. So yes, the output is 3. And if you check the type of first number at this point, it will give you int, because by using int function you have converted this from float to int. We can also convert this into string. So for this we simply need to replace this with str, and this will convert it into string. So if you check the type of first number after this statement, it will return you str. So let's execute these two statements. You can see that now first number is considered as str because we have converted this into string. And when I'm saying that this number is converted to string, it means that internally this is stored like this way at this point, because str function will convert it into string. This is the representation of a number written in string format. We have a float function which is used to convert integer to float. So for this, let us consider these two statements. Here I'm assigning 3 to first number. It means that first number is of integer type at this point, and after that I'm applying float function to this. Let's see the output of these two statements. Can you guess the output at this point? Yes, the output is 3.0, because 3 is an int, but when it is represented in float, it is represented as 3.0. So this way you can convert any integer to float. So at this point we can conclude that we can use int function to convert any float number to integer. Similarly, we can use a float function to convert integer to float, and we can use str function to convert integer or float to str. So these are the inbuilt functions which are used to convert one data type to another data type. In order to understand this concept further, let's take a look of these two statements. Here I have a first number with a float value. Then I am using a str function over this, which will convert it to string, and then I am trying to add 3 to this, and I am printing the value of this whole expression. So can you tell me what will be the output of this? So here actually I am adding a string value with an integer. So when you try to add a string value with integer, it will give you an error, because here this plus is considered as a concatenate operator. It is not considering it a mathematical operator, because on this side you have a string. Here you can see that if you execute these statements, it will perform addition and you will be getting 6.3. But if you try to convert this into str, this will give you an error and this will not perform any arithmetic operation over this, because at this point first number is a string value. Can you think what will be the output of these two statements? Here I have a first number with 3.3, then I am applying int function this, and after that I am adding 3 to this. So this will convert 3.3 to 3, so the output will be 6 in this case. So this is the basics about conversion function, and through these conversion function you can convert one data type to another. Before concluding on conversion functions, let us consider this case. Here I have first number with 3.74 and I am converting this to integer, so of course the output will be 3. So let's suppose instead of converting 3.7 to 3, you want its round value, which is 4. So in order to get its round value, we have a round function. If I execute these two statements, the output will be 4. And it's important to note that if input is 3.5, the round function will return 4. So if the input is 3.5, it will be rounded to 4. But if you have input 3.49, it will be rounded to 3 as shown here. Let's quickly discuss about naming conventions used in variable names. You can't give a space in the variable name. If you try to give this, it will give you a message syntax error, because space is not allowed in the variable name. Of course, if you have requirement like this, then you can use underscore, and this is allowed, and in this case 3 has been successfully assigned to first underscore number. If you start a variable name with a digit, then again this is not allowed. You can't start a variable name with a digit, and if you try to do that, you will again get a invalid syntax. But you can have variable name like this. So in this case, it starts with the character and then you can have digit after that. So you can't have digits in the beginning, but you can have digits in the variable name, but it should not be at the start or at the beginning of the variable name. So A23 is equal to 2 is allowed. So in this case 2 is stored in a variable name A23, and if you try to print this value, you will get 2. So of course you cannot use inbuilt keywords to assign variable names. If is a keyword in Python, so you can't use this as a variable name. So if you try to use it, you will be getting invalid syntax. So you should be careful. You should not be using any keyword as a variable name, and you should be careful about naming conventions. Let us consider these 4 statements and try to give a thought what will be the output of these 4 statements. So if I execute these statements, the output will be 3. So here I have initialized the number with value 0. Here the value is 1. Number is updated to 2 at this point. The number is updated to 3 this point. So if you execute these 4 statements, the output will be 3. It's important to initialize this variable. So if I try to execute these statements without giving any initial value to check, this will throw an error, and it is saying that check is not defined. So it's very important to initialize the variable if you are using it. For example, here if you are using number, so it is initialized here with 0. So if you use it without assigning any value to this, this will give you an error message, as you can see in this case. So this is all about conversion functions and naming conventions in Python. This is all about this session. In next session we will discuss interactive programming. So see you in next session. Thanks for watching this video.